And it's a brand new week, so it's a brand new conversation with Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest. How are you, bud?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm climbing off the floor. This whole thing, and we talked about this, but I really did not expect Chris Jones to get this contract done with the Chiefs. Did it catch you off guard as much as it caught me?
Yeah, it did me too. I mean, we've been talking about it, and I think I've indicated I was pretty pessimistic. I thought it was more likely than not that nothing got done. That it was more likely that he was going to play under the franchise tag or some compromise between the two.
Yeah.
And then when you saw the last couple of weeks and Jones on social media and some of the messaging he was putting out, it certainly didn't sound good. But you know what? We always say deadlines make deals in the NFL, and it's a classic case of that. I mean, this was literally sounds like the last 12 to 24 hours, things really kind of came together on this. And I was surprised, but Chiefs got done, and that's a big deal for this team for this year.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about how much they've gotten done, I did a piece on Brett Veach in particular, but I mean, that's not to slight the rest of the personnel department or the front office in general. When you look at the encompass of the whole offseason, this has got to be, I mean, nearly perfect in terms of accomplishing goals, right?
Yeah, and hey, they got lucky a couple of times because hey, Bashaud Breeland had a couple of issues that drove down his cost that allows them to get him back. I don't think in a normal free agent market that Demarcus Robinson comes back to this team. So there was a few things that kind of fell their way, and you know what? And maybe the atmosphere in general and the environment probably played a role in them being able to get the Patrick Mahomes deal done as early as they did. So, there was some fortune that came their way, but at the same time, I mean, we talk about the narrative of it, which is that, hey, at one point, the Chiefs had $177 of salary cap space, and Brett Veach is able to parlay it into this. We'll see. I mean, Brett Veach won this offseason. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, I think as a Chiefs fan, you're feeling pretty good even about the draft and what they did there. So this has been a really, a good few months. But you know what? I mean, thing is that's what this team's going to have to do going forward. I mean, because you're entering an era now where you're not going to be able to do what the Chiefs have done, I would say, in the last, 12 to 24 months, which is that you're not going to be able to sign as many of your own guys and keep them. You're going to have to do what the Patriots do, which is let guys leave, let guys walk. So in the future, you may not be signing the next Chris Jones. You might not be able to do that. And you're not going to be able to go out and spend $100 million fixing problems and filling gaps. So, you're not going to be able to go get a Frank Clark. I mean, there's just things that you're not going to be able to do going forward. And now, hey, you know the reason why is because you got Patrick Mahomes, and that's a good thing to have. So it's a good problem to a degree. But as a result, I mean, you're going to have to do that. I mean, Brett Veach is going to have to continue to find value. He's going to have to continue to draft well, and be able to keep the affordable people that he can. And so, hey, these last 3 months have been good, but tell you what, he's going to have to do it every year now.
Yeah, in effect, he's only raised the bar on himself, right? That's tough.
Exactly.
For where they are, though, I mean, whether the bar's high or not, I like what you said about the New England parody almost. Which aspects of what we've seen from them over the years do you think might actually work here and that the Chiefs might be looking to adopt in the future?
Well, it is going to be different because, the Patriots, Bill Belichick was kind of a defense first guy. I mean, it seems like that was where his concerns were as far as you give him the defensive people that he needs and the pieces that he needs to fit, and he'll make it work. And he's always had an offensive coordinator that just kind of dealt with that side of the ball. And at times it's always been about letting Brady be Brady. This, you've got a different coach. I mean, and I think that Veach has been different in his philosophy, which has been, we're going to put a lot of resources on offense and we're going to figure out defense. So it's different in that regard, but I think there's going to be a lot of similarities as far as just and the economic realities, as far as when you're paying a quarterback this much, that you can't have everything. You're going to have to, pick and choose. And you know what? I mean, the Chiefs might continue with a model where they'll continue to try and keep some of their guys. They will continue to sign free agents because Brett Veach has said all along, that free agency is there to fill the gaps, fill the deficiencies. If you got a hole, that's what free agency is there for.
Yep.
And that's his philosophy. So I would expect him to continue that to a degree. But yeah, I mean, the reliance on it is going to have to be a little bit less, and the margin for error is going to be a little bit less.
Particularly, I start to see it as, like you said, they're going to have to let some guys go. So the compensatory picks are really going to be what this becomes about, in my estimation. But I also want to look at the phenomenon of them taking older veterans who've been released, who've run out of their contract at another place, that want one more shot at it. The Ty Laws, all these guys that have gone through New England, that I think you can take that aspect of it and apply it here as well.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that you're going to have the benefit of is with Patrick Mahomes, is that you're going to have guys, who are searching for rings, who want to win and maybe are later in their career. They're going to be willing to come here and for less money. We've seen that over the years with New England. I mean, we've seen the Randy Mosses go there. Now you're seeing the Cam Newtons go there. You're going to see guys with talent willing to come to Kansas City for less money because they either want to win, or they know that playing with Patrick Mahomes is going to make them better, let them put up better numbers, and maybe get the deal they want somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. Put good stuff on film and things happen for you. So I guess for me, I think we've seen the way that the Mahomes contract stacked. Now the Jones contract is stacked on top of it. It's pretty tight here for the next couple of seasons. 2023, you have some things that you can start to maybe do, but there's not going to be a whole lot of room to maneuver, I don't think. Or do you see cuts coming, say, after this coming season?
Well, and so much of it is going to be, what happens with the salary cap next year. I mean, right now, I think the Chiefs have about $190 million committed under the cap for next year. That's probably, I think, about 40 players maybe under contract, maybe a little bit less. That's going to be fine if the salary cap, goes up from the 200 million around. And, if you had under 20 million to spend, it'd be great. But we don't know that. I mean, right now, there's even the expectation that the salary cap could drop and significantly next year. So I think to a degree, it's really up in the air about what's going to happen, as far as that goes. But, when and hey, I'm one of those types because I look at it and I see the numbers and I'm like, okay, you know what? There's not going to be a lot of room to maneuver in the next couple of years because the Chiefs have done all their maneuvering. Now, that said, there are still ways that you can do that. There's still ways, and Brett Veach showed it the last couple of months, that you can always navigate the salary cap to a degree. Now, there's always going to be a day of reckoning at some point, and you can also put that off a little bit, but there's always going to be that day eventually that you're going to have to eat some cap space. Something's going to happen, and you just know that if you do what you want in the next 3 years, I think any Chiefs fan would accept that. But also, and like I said, for me, I get caught up in the salary cap sometimes. But the thing that you can't forget is that this is the NFL, and the turnover is ridiculous. And just because Patrick Mahomes has a 12-year contract with the Chiefs doesn't mean that there's anybody on this team that he's going to be playing with in 2025.
Right. It almost assures it's not, right?
Yeah. It's exactly. You get to 2026, 2027. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Harrison Butker's still around, but other than that, Patrick Mahomes going to have a whole new branch of teammates. That's just the way football is. So it's going to turn over, and there's going to be new guys coming in. And the only thing I really say that with the salary cap and the issues that they're going to have in maybe the next 3 or 4 seasons is that you just won't have some of the maneuverability and the flexibility that you saw them be able to demonstrate maybe the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel like it's probably just going to stay flat, if not go down. I don't see any way that it has the ability to go up given the revenue shortfalls we're going to see. And honestly, that we're going to talk about when we come back from this break. So you hit it on the head. It's about the cap in terms of maneuvering, but the cap is most affected by this virus, I think. And so we've heard a lot. And as we record this late in the week, you guys probably won't see this or hear this until Monday or Tuesday. This is a whole lot of back and forth with almost no detail. We've heard from players, JJ Watt. We've heard a lot about just how little information has been decided at this point when the Chiefs are supposed to report in a couple days.
Yeah, and that's, even the reporting dates are a little iffy. We've been told that, the Chiefs rookies are planning on reporting on Monday. What they're going to do, we have no idea. Is that just showing up for testing and then you go home and you wait for the results and see what happens? The 22nd date was thrown out as generally being the start of the rookie mini camp. followed by the 25th on the regular camp starting. But right now, there's no schedule. And that might change by the time that, we get to the beginning of the week. Maybe there will be. But right now, no, here we are on July 17th, and we don't know what the schedule for training camp is going to be. And even if they had dates to report, we don't know what they're going to be doing when they show up, because there's no plan as far as, right now you could just look at the CBA and say, okay, well, if they pay attention to that, that's what they're going to do. But there's no interest by either teams or the players to follow the CBA. But as a result, though, we don't know what kind of acclimation period there's going to be. We don't know how long it's going to be before they're in pads. We don't know if there's going to be 2 preseason games or 0.
Yeah.
We don't know what a practice is going to look like. The only things we really know is that, hey, they've got their tiers of who's going to be on the field and who can be around them and who can be in the building and who can't, that kind of thing. And we have a general outline of what, practices that they think the players should, and the team should handle when they are working out and how they run a practice. There's a little bit of that. But no, if the team had to go out and have a practice today, they don't have enough information. They don't know what they would have to do.
Well, and the thing that's been confusing for a lot of folks, and I've even had to go check on it a couple of times, but the fact that the NFLPA, NFL have to still negotiate it, that this isn't just a mandate from the league that sets a date and they have to show up. This is built into the CBA, correct? That they have to agree on these milestones, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, the CBA is built so that, rookies can report on a certain date, veterans can report on a certain day. You then have a acclimation period before you can start putting on pads, and those dates are all baked into the CBA. But what we're in here is in a situation where you haven't had any off season, so you can't do that. You can't have a normal training camp at this point. You've got to do things differently. And if they're going to do that, then the players and the owners have to negotiate it and figure out how they're going to do that. I think the disappointing thing has been that they've had months to do this. And once again, we talk about deadlines make deals. Maybe there was the expectation that if they wait until the last minute, that, the looming deadline will force both sides to give a little bit. But right now it sounds like they're pretty far apart. And, and part of it is that the owners appear to be pushing for financial concessions so that they can have the players absorb some of their losses. And then you've got the players who are pushing the health concerns primarily. And they want a lot of concessions when it comes to the health side and ramping up and how they actually go about running a training camp and how they get back into shape.
I think that's the overwhelming thing to take away from what we've seen in the last week, maybe 10 days, is that the players are far more concerned than the public is about this particular thing getting to them and spreading through the team. And I think that's really why the major first hurdle has to be is, when do they agree that they're going to show up? I wonder if people will start to trickle in because they don't know the date, maybe take a test and try to get a result. But what happens if 10% of the roster shows up and tests positive? Is there a tripping point in your mind for where that happens and what happens because of it?
Yeah, I think some of that is going to be just trial and error to a degree, because I don't know. I will be very interested to see if the NFL does have a criteria, for instance, to say, all right, and remember, once we talk about everything else that they don't have a plan for, they don't have a plan for testing yet either. Yeah. So even though we're talking about rookies maybe reporting on Monday and maybe they're showing up for testing, we don't know what the testing is going to look like, or how quickly they can get the results, or how long they have to wait before they do anything. But there was an expectation that, yes, if you get the players come in, you have them test, you then keep them isolated until you get the results to figure out where you are as a baseline. That would be the first step. Now, what they're going to do that or not, we don't know. But I think you kind of ask an intriguing question, which is there a trigger? Is there a number of players that would, or coaches even, that would have to test positive before you change things? And, and I even saw someone throw out the question today, which was, hey, what if you get into the season and you've got a player on Friday that tests positive and has been in close, proximity to 30 players? Are there 30 players who can't play on Sunday now? And you can't play a game? We don't know the answers to any of those things. And what kind of triggers are there going to be? because this is a different. I mean, football is going to be different than the other sports, and I think the NFL was also hoping a little bit that the NBA in particular was probably going to be a sport that was a little bit further along than they are at this point. And, at this point, hey, the NFL is kind of at the same time getting back to the way that the other sports are. And that's why they're kind of all feeling their way through it.
Yeah. They have an opportunity to make some headway and be a leader in the world of sports if they can figure it out. But it's a tall task. And what we've seen is that the Chiefs are among the teams that are trying to report first. And we've heard that the Chiefs have communicated that to their rookies that we're going forward as scheduled. But the plan seems to be, I don't know if they named a specific lab, but they have testing that they have prearranged. And they're saying that, what was it, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever it was, 24-hour turnarounds. That seems almost impossible given what we've seen for the public. Now, I know a private lab has the ability to skirt some of that, but like you said, if they test positive on Friday, you're not getting that result until Saturday night, in which you've probably already gotten on a plane and you're probably in the city. I can't see them changing travel plans to show up the morning of a game or anything. Can you?
No, I mean, and I know that was actually thrown out, was that, maybe saying that players were going to, travel on game days. And I can't think of a single player that would sign up for that. Yeah. That is just ridiculous. But, and we've seen it with the other sports too. And baseball in particular had that problem as far as, getting the testing up and how quickly they were getting results. We haven't seen really, I think, any of the sports be able to do testing right out of the box the way they want to. So that, I think, is going to be a challenge with the NFL as far as, getting that up and running. And, and all the sports are going to face this eventually, I think. But then the other concern is going to be, you've got a lot of football players. I mean, it's more football players than any other sport. You got 90 guys on every single roster, and then you've got coaches that are going to be tested. This is probably 120, 150 range as far as tests that they're going to be needing to do every day, or every other day, or whatever, however their schedule is. That's a lot. I mean, and then you spread it around the entire league. That's a lot. And it's a lot of bandwidth. And, and hey, are they going to be getting a lot of grief that there's people in the public who are waiting 15 days for test results? And you got a couple of thousand NFL players and coaches who get theirs 24 hours. That could be a PR backlash too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things outside of the actual getting the tasks done that I think are going to affect how this all goes. But right now, in general, just bottom line, are you optimistic that this thing can actually have games in September, or are we looking at a big pushback?
I mean, I know the NFL is of the mindset that they want things to be as normal as possible, as quickly as possible. So I think they're going to do everything they can try to make that happen, to make sure that we September 10th, week 1, that everything does happen. Now, what it looks like, totally up in the air. I mean, how many fans, if any, are in the stands? That's a great question. But I've been pessimistic on a lot of things this offseason, and hey, on a couple of them I've been wrong. I didn't think they'd get Patrick Mahomes done this quickly. I didn't think the Chiefs would get Chris Jones done either. So I'm not my pessimism track record is pretty bad right now. So,
but you're pleasantly surprised. That's a good
thing. I mean, so I guess on September 10th, if we're watching football, I'll be incredibly pleased and surprised. But I think it's really concerning that here we are so close, and the owners and the players haven't been able to get together on anything. It hasn't gotten adversarial yet, so at least we've got that going for us. But no, I mean, I've got serious concerns, and if for no other reason than there seems to just be a wide disparity of opinions around the league. There's plenty of people with plenty of optimism, but you'll also hear from people around the league too that don't think this is going to go well.
Yeah. And I guess we'll flip a coin and see what happens. But we will check back in with you later in the week and see what has happened. So thanks for jumping in here today.
Thanks, Ryan.